Hey, welcome everybody to Pro Mindset Podcast. This is your host, Craig Domann. I have two guests today. They both are professional volleyball players. They happen to be married. Oh my God, I can only imagine the bedroom talk. I can only imagine the conversations after matches with these guys. This is James and Molly Shaw. Thank you so much for being on Pro Mindset, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us, Craig.
Okay, so you guys both know we've done recordings with you guys individually. So we're not going to go back and we're not going to necessarily talk about like mindset stuff today. We're going to talk about relationship and sports stuff. So, but before we get started, everybody wants to know, how'd y'all meet?
Man, do you want to talk?
Go ahead.
Okay, well, she'll probably jump in. I was actually living in Italy at the time. She was back here in California in Manhattan Beach, or mostly, I guess.
One of the two.
And I was on a dating app, had my location set to Hermosa because I knew about a couple weeks later I was going to be headed back home anyway. That was towards the end of my year there. And actually rewind a week, even before that, even before I'd seen her on like the dating app, I came across a picture of her on Instagram with one of my friends back from college. And I was like, wait, I've never seen that girl before. Who's that? And it didn't really cross my mind that she, obviously that she would be on a dating app or anything like that, or that I'd be meeting online with her, a week later. But I liked a few of her pictures. I followed her, absolutely nothing in response from her. So I was like, all right, I'll just kind of chalk this one up. And then a week later we matched on Hinge on the dating app. And that was my opening line. I was like, you completely ignored me. And yet here we are. And then that obviously started a snowball and we kind of went from there. And basically she needed to know like I was coming back to California. Otherwise she was going to keep talking to me. Yeah, from there, I came back a little bit later and we met up pretty much right after I got back home, and the rest is history. Yeah.
Okay, so is that pretty accurate, Molly?
Yeah, that's
how things went down?
Yeah.
Okay, so you met on a dating app. You're both volleyball players. You're both living unusual careers, but you met on an app, which totally makes sense that you were matched. But how long did you know each other before you knew? But he was the one or she was the one?
Okay, honestly, not to be so fairy tale princessy about this, but I texted my mom after I met him, and I have it screenshotted because it was funny. I texted her, I was like, either I'm going to marry him or I'm going to fall into a deep depression. And she's like, it will work out how it should. And I was like, shut up. But I kind of do. Yeah.
Things about you. So Molly, I'm sorry to cut you off there. I love the idea that you just knew. I love it because it's not necessarily love at first sight. We just know, it's like, I don't know what God almost sets it up to where you just know that's your person.
Yeah.
Right. James, how about you? You a little bit slower learner or what?
No, pretty similar. I mean, obviously it's hard to tell on the dating app. So when I knew honestly was on our first date, I actually had our dog now, Buckwheat. He's sort of my telltale, like my litmus test for for anybody coming into our lives. And he really liked her and she really liked him. And that was important for me. Was she's an animal person. If she gets him, she kind of gets me. I think like he and I are very similar beings and have very similar like demeanors. So that, I mean, not to say like that was the only thing that mattered, but that was just one thing that sort of stuck out to me. Like, okay, this is a very good fit already. And I feel like I can say anything to her and it not only won't phase her, but it'll be like, something that we can, we can just kind of riff with each other. And to have that right off the bat was like kind of a special thing that I knew like, okay, we're going to be good here. We're going to be together for a long time.
Molly, what's the commonality or the similarity between Bucky and James? Like what characteristic does your pet have compared to your husband?
They're both like very endearing and calming. He looks like a pit bull, our dog, and he is the most caring, soft thing I've ever met in my life. Like, he's giant and he looks scary, but when you actually experience his personality, he's like so calming, and like you just want to be around him and like cuddle him. He's just like a big teddy bear. And it's like the same with James. Whenever I first met him, I was like, oh, like he's attractive. Oh God, like he's probably like the stereotypical volleyball player. And then I met him and I'm like, oh, you're actually like very kind and smart and like soft. Like I was expecting the worst, I guess, but yeah, it ended up not being that, so that's good.
How do you guys synergize to help each other be your best in your careers, in your sport? Because if James, if you had a housewife that didn't compete and, she maybe traveled with you, maybe didn't travel with you, and same thing, Molly, for you, if you had a husband that didn't understand the pressures that you guys are under with respect to travel and competition and dealing with partners and dealing with coaches and dealing with decisions, like which direction do we go in this quad to get to where you want to go if you want to be in LA in 28?
Mm-hmm.
What are the benefits of being in the same genre of business?
I think, one of the things you said is just he just like gets it. And I think that if I were to, I bring some of my concerns up to like my family that they don't play the sport, like anything. And they just like don't get it fully. Like their responses are always kind of like, I don't really understand, but this is what I would do kind of thing. And so it's nice to have someone that's like in the same situation as me, or has been there or is going to be there. And we can kind of like bounce off ideas. And I think it would be really hard if he didn't play, because beach volleyball players are insane. They're like starving artists. Like we do things that a lot of people probably wouldn't do in their craziest minds. And so it's cool to have the exact same, like not person, but the same job, I guess, in the family, because we get to kind of like be crazy together and not judge each other for it, or not be like, oh my God, like you spent all this money on a flight. Like I never get to go anywhere.
Yeah. What I was gonna I was gonna echo that as well. I think the financial part of it is not unimportant. The like sometimes, for instance, we'll be in crazy amounts of credit card debt just because we have to buy a bunch of trips just around the world to go and compete, and sometimes we're going out on a complete limb to go do that. So to have a person who understands that a little bit better and they understand the why is the most important, I think, thing for us. But I think my first thought to that question was, I think we motivate each other on a pretty daily basis. Like there are not a lot of days where if we're feeling a little bit sluggish, a little bit wanting to, be a little lazier, or if we're feeling a little bit over anxious or too nerve-wracked about a certain thing, the other person is for the most part presenting thing that we need, that we need to see in ourselves. Personally, for example, Molly does a really good job of just constantly getting back in the weight room and working on her body and making sure she's always taking that, to the highest level. I think for me, sometimes I can get to the point where I'm sort of expecting a lot more, not expecting, but I think I fall back into sometimes just taking a little more time off. Like I think I'm on the other end of the spectrum in terms of recovery. And when I see her in there, going in there every day and getting a little sweat in, getting a little bit stronger, that sometimes will knock me back into place of, oh yeah, I actually do need to go and push myself a little bit more today. I'm going to be this tired every single day when I'm competing on the road. So if I can be a little bit stronger than I am right now, that's even better. And so we push each other, in a lot of various ways.
Okay, so that leads me into this next question. Since you've been dating, you've been married for about a year, but how long did you date before you got married?
A year and a half. Wait.
A little bit more than 2 years. So we were about two and a half years in when we.
Okay, so you've been together for 3.5 years.
Roughly.
What is the biggest benefit each of you have experienced that is a direct result of your partner? and their input, their influence, their coaching, their challenging?
I think for me, immediately when I met James, I think I mentioned this earlier when we were doing my podcast, but I'm a very emotional person. Like I have some serious highs and some serious lows, and James is the exact opposite. He just is always here. And I experience anger pretty fast, and I experience like happiness really fast and like sadness. And I feel like being around him has really leveled out my emotions, and I can see like healthy reactions to very stressful things. And that's on and off the court, but mostly like when I watch him play, he's very collected and calm, and I never used to be. And I feel like I just recently have been like able to do that more. So it's really hard for me, but seeing him do it like day in and day out has been selfishly very positive for me.
That's awesome. How
Yeah.
about you, James?
It's a tough one for me because there are so many, but I think a lot of it has to do with how much she puts herself out there and gets back up off the horse. I think there have been a lot of times in her life where she's been overlooked or not taken seriously. And I almost come from the opposite of the end of the spectrum, where people have told me so much about my potential and how great I can be. And I feel like I've never necessarily been able to meet that. And so to see how she goes about her business in the face of that has almost spun it to where I can sort of trick myself into that mindset and get myself back up on the horse and feel like I need to prove people wrong, when maybe I don't necessarily need to be even doing that. But that's been a big benefit to me, is like being able to put myself in that mental space where I'm sure she would want the opposite. She would want to not have to be doing that all the time. But the fact that she's there and she's naturally, there and really responds at a high level to those things shows me a lot of like what I could be doing. And that's a big benefit to me. Yeah.
Well, it sounds like you guys are a perfect fit, because in getting to know you guys individually, James, you've kind of lived this like charmed experience through the sport. Having a father that showed you the way, playing at Stanford, getting to the national championship, all these things, you haven't been just like beat up. You've kind of been shown the way. And Molly, on the other hand, has been beat up. And both of you have persevered, even though you come from different circumstances, different backgrounds, but you both need a little bit of the other. Because anytime you get to the highest level, you're going to get your head beat in a few times. And so you've got to be able to get off the mat. You got to restart. You got to reset, all those things that describe like whatever happened, it's over. Let's go.
Mm-hmm.
And Molly's got that in spades. Yeah. And then Molly did, I'm not trying to do a character, evaluation or anything, but, the more you believe in yourself, the more you believe in how great you can be, you and your partner can be number one. The difference between number 1 and number 10, let alone number 1 and number 4, is like this much.
Right.
So small.
Right.
It's a match here or there when it really matters. And so, Molly, and from my perspective, you need to allow James's like confidence and belief and like vision for, his potential and his future to rub off on you. That way you guys can both maximize this experience. So.
Yeah, totally. And there's times when that's flipped too. It's like, I mean, as recently as this last month where we were both competing in Asia, she was really playing some of the best volleyball she's ever played. And she was highly successful the whole trip. And I was kind of grinding it out, and not doing as well as I had hoped necessarily, but still doing well, for like the beginning of the year's expectations for me. But I kind of lost sight of that and didn't feel that confidence or that shine or the glimmer necessarily that she might have been feeling from riding that high. Yeah, I think we both do a good job of, I mean, definitely discussing a lot of that. You know, we a lot of our conversations around volleyball have to do with that itself. But yeah, I mean, we can definitely, I think, see that in each other, and we're getting better and better, I think, at figuring out.
Guys, how do you handle it when somebody is riding high and the other person's in the gutter, so to speak? They're just in a funk. They're not getting the dubs. They're not being as successful as they wanted to be successful. How do you keep your success in your sport, or failure, your situation in your sport, out of the bedroom, out of the dinner conversation, out of places where it doesn't serve you?
I
Do you
think
guys have boundaries that you set?
It's been trial and error.
We've been working on it. I think that we've failed and we've succeeded a lot this year with it because we've both been like highs and lows a lot. I think we've definitely set boundaries. Like we've tried things such as like, you know, when he was riding high at one point and I was in like the deep depths of my season this year, I requested kind of like putting volleyball topics in a note so that we didn't have to talk about it, but we were still aware of things. So we've done things in that fashion. And then, you know, I think James and I, we love traveling and experiencing nature together. And I think the biggest boundary we've ever set is that when one of us isn't feeling that great, like when the tournament's over, like we have to get out of Los Angeles and we have to go into nature and be alone, stop looking at our phones and just like be ourselves minus volleyball. And I think that's when we start connecting more, because it is so hard, like watching him be upset about a loss and then vice versa. Like it hurts us like in our souls. So it's nice for both of us to be like, okay, let's get out of Los Angeles and go be Molly and James, not volleyball players.
Yeah. The really hard part too is that moment where you are, you know, you're on the podium and you see me, you know, trying to put on the brave face and trying to be the supportive spouse, and you know how I'm feeling, you know, deep down and disappointed in myself, and not. I think a lot of the time in the past we have had the issue of trying to compare, and that's pretty. I think that's pretty normal for a lot of couples, and we talked about that too, Craig, yesterday. The less and less that we compare ourselves to each other, because the men's sport and the women's sport, especially in America, are very different, and they're very different paths to the Olympics and to the podium and to success. And we have to remind ourselves of that often too. The more we're just successful at riding our own ride in a lot of ways, and being okay with the other person's disappointment, not being okay with it, but being okay with not taking responsibility for the other person's disappointment, and, you know, going after our dreams, taking responsibility for that, and just being supportive in you know, the other person's success.
Well, one of the things that you guys are going to find that's critical that you're already doing is having James and Molly time and getting away from the mask that you wear, the uniform you wear, the whole construct of being a professional volleyball player and everything that's associated with that. Because at some point, you know, you just got to be in your PJs and be on the couch watching a Netflix and forget about volleyball. And at some point in time, somebody's going to want to quit before the other. And if you're so connected on just volleyball, it will create some conflict in your relationship where you almost need to have this autonomy in your relationship where it's, hey, you got together for the long term, which means you want to die old together, and you're not going to be playing volleyball in your 40s. So you got to make sure that connection is there almost more than the volleyball connection. The volleyball connection's a bonus. That's awesome. But it can't be the nucleus of what it is. Totally. And the thing that came to my mind when I was listening to you guys talk about just the dynamics of one doing well and one not doing well, which is always going to be the case. I mean, it's very unlikely you both get gold medals, you know, at the same time, although it's possible, is It's almost like a lot of guys joke that my money's my money and my money is my wife's money too, type thing. It's the concept that you guys are a team and her success is your success and your success is her success. And that you look more at the team almost more than the individual, even though you are individuals, and that you're on your own mission, you're on your own assignment, you got your own challenges, you got your own, the whole dynamics of your sports and your partners and all the things that you're doing is different. But you got to look at it as a team, because if you don't, then you automatically will compare.
Yeah,
whether
absolutely.
you admit it or not, you can't not do it. I mean, it's just the way that you're human, right? Thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's absolutely true. For sure easier said than done too. Like in practice, we've talked about that concept a lot of being a team, and it can be difficult though in this sport, especially because you're really not on a team. It's almost like tennis where you got a partner, but often we're switching partners all the time, and that's way less committal than a marriage, for instance, and you really start to just start looking out for yourself for the most part. It's the way I think Molly has felt in her athletic career, probably her whole career, just, being a beach volleyball player the whole time. You're really looking out for and craving the success of yourself in this sport, and your partner being a medalist, if you're a medalist, is sort of the byproduct of that. I think I maybe had an easier time feeling the feeling of like, hey, we're on a team and I want this team to succeed. Just given the fact that I've played on a team of 20 guys before and been really small, influentially in that. But I also now having a couple of years under my belt on the beach, I understand how much you have to fight for yourself, fight for what's yours. And so weighing both of those in the context of a marriage too is like, yeah, it's a difficult thing for sure. And the more we can remind ourselves that we're on the same team, and the more I think we get used to like sharing finances, for instance, that stuff starts to come. And I think it already has for us. We both feel like, especially on this last trip and some of the other trips we've had this last year together, I think we both felt like we're living and dying for the other person's success in a lot of ways. I get way more nervous watching her than I do actually playing. So
that's awesome. How about you, Molly?
No, I fully agree with it. I honestly have no notes after what he said, but I agree. I'd get more nervous for his games than my own. Mostly because I don't have any control over it, but that's beside the point.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, one of the things that I see from interviewing you guys and getting to know you a little bit is you guys have to manage relationships with your partner, with each other, with your coach, and it's draining. I mean, that kind of stuff is exhausting. And if you've got a low maintenance partner, like in your sport, makes it a lot easier. But even a sport like football, even though there's 11 guys on the field, everybody's got to do their job and they got to show up. They got to show out, and they got to, be unselfish sometimes, but they got to do their job. And so I think in volleyball, I can't imagine it's any different. Everybody's got to do their job. I mean, as long as everybody does their job, you're probably going to have more success than not.
Yeah. No, true. Absolutely.
Okay. What is the one, Molly, I'm going to start with you. What is the first word that pops in your head that describes James and his style of play when it's a very highly competitive match? What is the word that describes him the best and why?
It's just popping in my head. I want to say aggressive in like his decision making on the court, not in terms of his personality, but I also want to say collected, because I have never seen him like have a mental breakdown, or like, when we were talking about how like the best player, sometimes they just like I don't know. I don't know if I can swear, but shit the bed. Like, never seen James do that because I feel like he's just always like level headed. And even when there's something bad, he like moves on. So I would say both of those. I probably could come up with something better than those if I had more time. But those are the two that just came up in my head.
Well, one of the things that you say there is that he's composed and he doesn't take big dips.
Yeah.
You know, he doesn't have a low floor. He has a high floor. You know, and that's what typically happens with athletes that don't have mental like breakdown, so to speak. Because when you have that mental breakdown, that's when you dip. That's when you're inconsistent. And that's when your partner's like, your partner's thinking, I wonder if he or she's going to be, you know, be up for this.
Yeah.
Like you guys high five or whatever you do before a big point. Then the partner's thinking, oh shit, I hope he doesn't do it now or she do it now.
Yeah.
Right? How about you, James? What's the word that describes Molly the best on the court?
It's not an adjective. It's a noun. It's a bulldog. She in a similar way, undeterred. Like she really doesn't, she doesn't let a whole lot of like big time plays or bad luck on the court affect her. She like, whatever really comes her way, she just kind of grinds and fights through it and is just there. She's really talented in a lot more ways than I think she even knows, but she does the work. She's just got that energy, that bulldog energy. It's like I'm here and you're going to have to really battle it out with me to beat me.
Okay, James, you guys can probably tell I have no script. I'm just going with flow on this thing. You brought up a great point. What is the thing that you would like to share with the other that you've been thinking about telling that serves their best interest, that builds up their belief in themselves, that reassures their confidence, that we all got blind spots. We have blind spots in our marriage. We have blind spots in our own life. We have blind spots as an athlete. Let's just talk about the athlete part. What is the blind spot that your partner has that you want her or him to know that's going to help them? And they need to trust you because you're on their team. You're not trying to hurt them. You're trying to build them up.
One that immediate for me, and this one's, I think, obvious because it's been sort of the crux of her career, is she does have the potential, she does have the talent and the ability to be an Olympian and be an Olympic medalist. I don't think she's really ever heard it from people that she does have that ability. And so I think she's internalized it a lot, that she doesn't necessarily have what it takes to be like the next great thing, or the, you know, she didn't play at a really high level school when she was there, and she turned it into a really high level school when she was there. You know, it wasn't the big name. She's never been the big name. She's not the first person that people talk about when they talk about the best defenders in the country, or who's going to be the next great defender. But all of that has been talk, and a lot of people have sort of fallen by the wayside, all while she just keeps getting better and keeps being there. I think there's a lot of that will get her there, rather than just being 6 feet tall and being the best athlete on the sand or whatever, even though she's a great athlete. So yeah,
her greatness can be more than she even thinks.
sure.
Here's the ironic thing, is that we have a tendency as performers and athletes to limit our own greatness. So my challenge to you, Molly, is to recuse yourself from being the bottleneck on your own success. Because we have a tendency to do that. And it's like, sometimes we're almost scared of how great it could be. So we bump our head against success, but we don't want to break through it. And so my just, you know, I consider us friends now, but I mean, we've just met this week. It's like, why not you? Why not you? Tell me why not you? Why couldn't it be you? I mean, is there something you did in your past that you're like, wow, I got too much shame and guilt. I can't do that. Did you like slack your way through, training so that you don't deserve it? I mean, why not you?
I want to add too, like there have been a lot of examples in the past of this exact situation where there's been a person. I think the one that she looks up to the most is Misty May Trainer, who, she had the accolades in indoor volleyball as she was big time at Long Beach State, but wasn't the biggest, wasn't the fastest, wasn't the tallest, didn't have the best arm. She was just a friggin' bulldog. And she kept at it, and the breaks started coming her way, and then she took off. And she kept that same mindset too the whole, her whole way through her career, and that served her really well, obviously. But yeah, there's so many examples of that, and so that question of why not her, it's like, yeah, there's so many examples.
Well, before Molly, you speak about James, in the NFL, some of the best are not the best athletes. They're not, when the scouts write up their evaluation reports before the draft, they're not it. I mean, Tom Brady's the best example. He was the 199th guy taken. And it's like, he believed himself through it. He trained himself through it. He got the reps. His first pass in college, he started out, he was from, the Bay Area, goes to Michigan. He's 7th on the depth chart. When he finally gets in, his first pass was like a 43-yard pick six. Most guys are done. And then his senior year, he was sharing, wasn't even a full-time starter. He was sharing time with this Hinson guy who was the prototypical, freaky, unbelievable arm, great body, unbelievably athletic, all these things. And Tom Brady ends up being the guy with 7 rings. So Molly, why couldn't you end up with a couple medals, gold medals in the Olympics? Yeah. It's like that. I guess my thinking is, just from getting to know you, is that you can go as far as you want, but you have to move your glass ceiling higher. Because we all have I got a glass ceiling. We all got it, but we got to shatter that thing so that we can just see how far it goes. And if we don't get there, it's okay. All right, Molly, what about James?
It's funny because it's just it feels like a very opposite thing that I have to deal with, because I'm always, like we talked about, I'm always being told no, and I'm all beat up and pissed off and sad and stuff, where I feel like James has always been like he said, told that he has so much potential. And we have a lot of conversations about, and I see it after he loses a match, where you can just feel the weight of those comments on him, where he's like, oh, well, if everyone said I had potential, why am I not getting a medal? Or why am I not winning this tournament and stuff? I think that, to me, is something that I see as his version of something that's holding him back, because he just is oh, if it's supposed to happen, why isn't it? He wants to simultaneously prove people wrong and say I can do this, and then also prove them wrong and be stop telling me that I have potential. I see that a lot in our conversations, and it's really hard for me watching him, because I hate saying this, but he has so much potential, and I know he hates that. But it's everyone I talk to, at every tournament, we're watching him play, and they're holy shit, he's that guy. People that don't even know him, they're he's that guy. Everyone's watching him when he plays. He is the person people watch. And he's a very shy person in general, and he doesn't really experience a lot of I wouldn't say you're not cocky, but I don't really see him walk on the court and you're oh god, that guy is fiery. He's very unassuming, and I wish that he could take those comments from people and run with them and be yeah, I am that effing guy. You better watch out. You got to get through me to get to the next game. I am that person that you I have a target on my back, but good because I deserve to have that target. And everyone feels that way and everyone sees it. I think that the concept of him thinking he's not achieving what everyone thinks he should be achieving is like what's kind of mind boggling to him. But like I said earlier in my podcast, I touched on it. There's a player that will walk into tournaments and be like, it's easy to win this tournament because I knew I was supposed to win it. And I almost like hope that for James walking into the tournament and being like, yeah, I'm supposed to win this freaking tournament. So all I have to do is just play. Like I am that person. So that's kind of
what either one of you can answer this. And then I want to comment on that. Why, James, does everybody say that you have all this potential? What do they see that causes them to think that? Either one of you.
I'm gonna go first. Well, it's not a secret. James is 6'8", and I feel like the United States is just like dry of younger, funky, tall blockers. When I say young, just like someone that hasn't been through it yet, like someone that's like new, that their like eyes are like stars, and they're like. And James is that, like, he is a sponge that hasn't really absorbed enough yet. And he's like, if you feed him something, he's gonna just like take it in. So I think that that's what everyone sees. They're like, this person is just like, he was like an angel that fell into the sport. And everyone's just like waiting for that moment where he like gets the right coach, gets the right training, and just like runs with it. Cause he's like already running with like, I would say like half of the capabilities that he is capable of. And he's already like placing really high. So that, and he's just a freak athlete in general. But you can go down.
I think it goes back way further than that too. I mean, she paints a good picture, I think, of what it's like right now in the beach sort of community in America, especially for men. There's a dearth of blockers for sure. To be a blocker with some ball skills and some talent, like setting the ball and passing, is even more rare. So that is sort of part of it. But for me, it's like, I think it's been since I was young. Like when I was younger, I was Don Shaw's kid, and with the name came, a lot of potential, a lot of responsibility and possibility. I had always heard I was destined for Stanford, and I knew, not even in the back of my mind, at the front of my mind, that it was going to be really hard to achieve that, and not just on the volleyball court, but in the classroom. And after that, it was when I was at Stanford, or when I was younger, there was a magazine article, or a big magazine, volleyball magazine, that had me on the cover of it, calling me the next big thing, and I had no idea that was going to be claimed of me when I went for that interview and did a photo shoot. And so that was kind of like a weight put on the shoulders a little bit. And then when I was at Stanford, a lot of the talk was, okay, this guy's like the next big thing at setter. He's going to be competing with this other guy who's going to USC, who's like the other next big thing. So there was a lot of just talk and a lot of external things. And I was a sponge back then too, taking it all in and aware of it all. And I couldn't get away from the talk. So I had a really tough time at the beginning of my career at Stanford, just in dealing with that. I was deeply depressed my first year. Hadn't done at all what I came in to think I would do in my freshman year, and sophomore year was kind of the same until we kind of broke through the glass ceiling a little bit to go to that final four. But that's always kind of been the case. Like I went overseas my first year. There was a lot of talk of what I was capable of coming out of Stanford, and there were some highlight videos that made viral rounds in Italy, and so people were talking before I even got there. And so it's kind of always just followed me around my life in various ways. So yeah, it's something I've always had to sort of contend with. And same goes for on the beach community. In the beach community, it's just like a sort of a continuation of that.
Okay. Have I been pretty open and straight up with you guys, do you feel?
Yeah.
Okay. I have your permission to be totally like honest and blunt?
Sure.
Absolutely.
Okay. So what you have is what I call the typical 5-star curse, or the first rounder curse. And everybody thinks being a 5-star is a blessing, and it is. But you can never meet other people's expectations. And when you're a first rounder, every first rounder in the NFL draft becomes the face of the franchise. They're supposed to be the savior. And if they happen to play quarterback, they're supposed to like take them to the Super Bowl and to the promised land. And I would say that 65 to 70% of the quarterbacks drafted in the first round don't even make it to year 3 in their first team. They bust. So I've analyzed this whole concept. And what it is that when you're a freak athlete and you look the part and you got the pedigree, you grew up, in a volleyball coach's family, you were shagging balls when you were 6, all that type of stuff. You end up playing an external game. And the external game is a game of where I'm at compared to what other people expect me to be. So there's always a gap between where you're at and where other people expect you to be. So when you went to Italy, they had this precursor commentary about this guy's going to be the next whoever. And everywhere you've gone, you're getting that kind of response from people, whether it's your competitors, the fans, whether it's the media, whether it's the organizations that run the leagues, run the USA Volleyball. And the only way that you can change it and do what your wife wants you to do, which is to be the very best you can be, is play an inside game. Stop playing the outside game. You've got to rewrite your story about what your story is, about who you are as a person, who you are as a volleyball player, how you want to show up, how you want to perform, how you want to compete, how do you want to overcome adversity, how do you want to handle the big moments, all those types of things. And what it really boils down to is belief in you. When I had a little bit of this when I was in high school, everybody spoke for me. Everybody told me how great I was before I even got on the court, got on the field. And it made me feel uncomfortable. Honestly, it made me feel uncomfortable. And I couldn't figure out why I was feeling the way I was feeling. I just knew it didn't feel good. And I should have felt good because people were complimenting me. I never owned it. It never became mine. And I did not fulfill my potential. So when I had athletic kids, I made sure that they believed in themselves. In the NFL, I call them 99.9ers. They believe in themselves 99.9% of the time. But when it really matters, well, that's at the 1%. And then they come off the court, come off the field, my bad. Being a 100%er eliminates my bads. And unless you commit to being a 100%er, you're going to be a 99.9er. And as a 99.9er, you will focus your attention externally. When you become a 100%er, it's internally. And you don't give two F's about what people say. You don't, it could be on Instagram, it could be on the internet, it could be in the media, it could be in anything. You don't care. Because you stopped playing the outside game. And so you came by this honestly. Wasn't anything you did intentionally. You just happened to be born to I don't know if your father's a Hall of Famer, but it's that kind of coach at a very prestigious university, and you happen to be 6'8", and you're a freaky athlete. So what do you expect? They're going to talk about you. But you have to own it yourself. This is a me and me game, and it's an internal game. And here's the thing that I tell people. Belief and confidence are different. Belief is about who you are as a person. God created you both perfectly imperfect and broke the mold after you were born. There's never going to be another person like you. There's never been another person before you like you. And you are born for a special purpose. You have to buy into that purpose. If you don't buy into that purpose, you'll never achieve your potential. And I'm not trying to speak the gospel here, but the bottom line is it's really a spiritual thing to believe in yourself, to love yourself and believe that you're here for this reason, for this time and place to do what you do in the place that you do it, in the sport that you do it. at the level that you're at.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
And does that make sense? And then confidence is about what you do. Your confidence is going to fluctuate. Some days it's going to be sky high. Some days you're in a funk on your serves. Maybe your timing on your jumps on blocks is off. Confidence you can fix. When you're lacking confidence, all it is an inventory. So different than a store owner that takes an inventory at the end of the day and decides, what do we got to order to fill the shelves? Well, confidence is after every match and every competition, every tournament, what could I have done better? And then you attack it. But the whole time, win, lose, or draw, medal, get the big payday, get eliminated early, doesn't matter. You always believe in yourself 100%. Does that make sense?
Totally. And I would even push back a little bit on the 99.9%er. We talked a little bit about this in my episode too, but I think there's a lot of people, a lot of athletes out there who aren't even getting to 99.9%. So if you can get to 100%, you're in a really good spot. Talk about comparison, not comparing, self-belief. But if you're in that rarity, that self-belief, you're going to be in a really good spot when you're competing in those moments of really high intensity competition.
Well, think about those moments in the matches where you're winning by 3 or 4, you're serving, you're up 1-0. There's no pressure. Your belief is not being tested. So it doesn't matter if you believe in yourself 50%, 90%, 99, or 100. When it matters is when it counts. When you're, match points, that's when it shows up. So the thing that I love about belief is you get to choose it. You don't earn it. You don't buy it. You don't train for it. You choose it. And it's so easy that people can't do it. Now, confidence, you don't deserve confidence if you're not putting in the time. If you're not training and if you're not training to be the best at your craft to improve all the different aspects of your game. But belief, dude, it's a daily decision. You wake up every morning. You're either all in on you or you're almost all in on you. And you get to choose. Molly, give me some thoughts on that.
I mean, there's many athletes that I was thinking of when you said that last sentence of oh, I'm gonna half-ass things, or oh, I'm gonna take the day off, or oh, I already did that, or oh, I don't need the extra rep. And I always think about that, and I don't mean to be that person of oh, it's what you do in the dark that comes out in the light, or whatever the quote is, but I really do think that changes and sculpts you as a player. I also do think that when you're in the most stressful situation, you fall on your preparation. And if you're not preparing, then you have literally nothing to fall on. And so, you kind of either crumble or you're tested. And so I can confidently say that if you're prepared and you're stressed out or in a stressful situation in a game, and you just kind of think of no, I've done the work. I can trust that. I can believe in that. Then things don't feel as big or as scary.
Well, without being cocky, you deserve it.
Yeah.
If you put in the work, you deserve it.
Right.
James, any other thoughts?
Yeah, I think the belief part is a tricky one. I go back and forth in believing whether or not I can just turn on my belief or if it is a repeated choice. I think sometimes I feel like it is something you have to practice just as much as a rep. Practicing a perfect rep is going to give you that confidence to do the right thing, make the right action, and at the point when it matters in the match. Waking up every day is another rep in believing in yourself. I think you can kind of see it in that way too. And if you do, and if that sort of gives you more comfort and like, okay, I can actually have some actionable thing where I am practicing this belief in myself, and I can sort of check it off in my mental note, notebook or to-do list of like, this is what I did today. I believed in myself fully. That can sometimes, if you're mindful of it enough, I think that can get you to the point where you are believing in yourself all the time. I think a sport like football, I think self-belief is practiced, because if you're not believing in yourself, you're going to get physically mauled out there. It's a different thing, if you're not believing in yourself, and that's part of this like sort of macho culture in a lot of ways, the masculine, I think in all of us, male, female, or whatever you are, if you are feeling that feeling of belief, you're feeling sort of a masculine, like, I'm going to dominate whatever I'm doing today. And I am greater than whatever's in my way today. And on the football field, it's literal. It's like that physical, I'm going to tackle this. I'm going to make this tackle or I'm not. And in volleyball, there's a little more nuance to it, obviously, because you got a net between you and your opponent. And oftentimes your opponent ends up being you, your partner, your team, yourself. And so I don't know, that's sort of where my mind went on it. And I think every sport has its nuances for sure with how belief, sort of bubbles over and is played out. Yeah. I think there's definitely some power in thinking of it as a every day.
Well, here's another augment to that, is it's being tested all the time. It's being tested all the time.
Yeah.
And so you might wake up on a tournament day and go, man, I believe in myself today. You might meditate, you do whatever you do in the shower. You're thinking about your upcoming day, and you're like, man, I got it today. And then you're down 0-5 the first game, and it's like, shit, what am I going to do now?
Yeah.
Okay. So here's the thing that I've seen in sport, and I think there's a lot of crossover between almost all sports. It doesn't matter if it's volleyball or golf or basketball, or doesn't matter. But to use an analogy, like, I'm guessing you gave your wife a ring, and unless you give her like coal, she has a diamond of some type. And so, and if she has a gold band, there's 14, 18, 24, whatever carats there are. What's the difference between 14 karat and 24 karat? Do you guys know?
Josh, has to do with the weight.
Has to do with the purity of the gold. So 24 karat gold is the most pure. So like if you have cheap gold, you'll have like green rings around your finger. Okay.
Yeah.
And if you have 24 karat, you normally don't have that. Okay. Well, the difference between 14 and 24 is the time spent in the fire that allows the gold to be purified. So your belief is like gold. The more it gets tested, the more you're in the fire, the more you double down on who you are more than what you do, your belief gets stronger and it gets easier. Okay? That's why you see in intense moments, oh, this is a pressure moment. Well, maybe it is, but maybe it's not. For some people, it's not. Because they're not defined by their wins and losses, and they believe in who they are regardless of whether they win or not. And so I think it's really, really important to separate what you do from who you are. Easy to say, hard to do. When everything you're doing, you're eating, you're sleeping, your training, your schedule is all predicated upon training and preparation for your sport. But it's still only what you do. And the more you can divorce all these things from your performance, the better you perform. And that's why when Molly and I were talking earlier, and she has these like mini pity parties or temper tantrums in her head, She's resetting. She's got nothing to lose. Well, what if she did that before the match? And what if she did it every time and she went to it every time she needed it during a match? And it's a tool. You turn an emotional response into a tool. Now it's working for you. It's your secret weapon because it allows you to flush what just happened and not deal with expectations and future outcomes and compensation and schedules and all the things that are ahead of you so that you can be in the moment. Because the person that's in the moment, the talent level in most sports, the margin is very small. Like both of you guys could be, elevated in your sport quite a bit by just making a little improvement. And by struggling a little bit, you could probably fall quite a bit. Is that a fair statement?
Yep, totally.
So when you get ready for, when you guys are competing for the Olympics, you make it, you're going to barely make it. You don't make it, you're going to barely not make it. So what's the barely? What's that small thing that you can do that can change the results? Change how you show up. And that's my challenge to you guys, is to, while you guys are conversing over this kind of stuff from time to time, is what is the thing that you can do? What micro adjustments can you make in how you see yourself? How you train your standards, how you visualize all different situations so that you can show up and ball out. If you win, you win. You don't, you don't. But ball out. Because someday you guys are going to have amazing volleyball kids. They're going to be tall and athletic and tenacious and bulldog-minded and all these things. They're going to embody both of you guys. And they're going to have some of the same things of, oh my God, she or he's got so much potential. She gets so frustrated so fast. All the lessons you guys have learned, you're going to pass on to your kids. And all you're going to care about is a couple things: that they have fun, that they give maximum effort, and that they don't quit. Because you can measure those three. But all the other stuff you can't measure. Thoughts on that?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's the thinking about, us moving on from the sport and potentially having a family. I'm just like, I would want our kid or kids to, be the best that they can be and not repeat our insecurities. So that's, definitely would want them to have fun and not quit and, enjoy themselves.
I think about that small percent, that small percent of improvement of the barely making it or barely not making it. I think about that all the time. I didn't used to when I was younger because the rate of growth was so much faster. And in the sport now that I'm playing, there was that time for the first 6 months, 8 months, year where I was in it and I was learning a lot, getting a lot better really quickly. And now the top of the hockey stick starts to come, and here comes the barely, there's a lot of work that can be done, and not a ton of it will show out necessarily. Or the rate of improvement will slow. So I think about that a lot, and it's right for a lot of trial and error and discussion and struggle, and it's fun. I think it's the fun part about being an athlete, being a pro athlete.
Well, one of the things that I've seen is that at a certain point in everybody's sport, it's about getting bigger, stronger, faster. And then it's about improving your sport IQ so that you're smarter. Then it becomes how you respond, who you are and how you respond. And so I've coached athletes that, because of physical situations, had to take a break. And they took a break for like 6 months. They had to show up for the Olympic trials. And these are like, these are precision sports. These are not like physical sports. And they still won because it was up here. So the most growth, once you have arrived in the sport where you guys are, is going to come from your mental growth. And your mental growth will be revealed by how you respond, not by how you act, not how you strategize, not how you show up and plan. All those things are important. It's how you respond, because no game is perfect. The weather's not perfect. The coaching's not perfect. The officiating's not perfect. Your partner's not perfect. You're not perfect. And as you get better and better at responding, you win. Because everybody's struggling with responding. Okay. Taking a little bit longer than I expected. But I appreciate the conversation. This was awesome. I thought we would talk a little bit more about relationships, but we end up talking a lot about sport. But you know what? You guys opened it up when I asked the question about what was the blind spot of your partner? Because I have blind spots. My partner has blind spots. And I think one of the biggest areas of growth that we can help our partners is in their blind spots, because they're called blind spots because they don't see them. So I would encourage you guys to grow together, love yourself, not just as athletes, but as people. Give each other a lot of grace, because marriages are tough. I've been married for 39 years for a reason, because I put the work in. Marriages sometimes are tough. And when you've only been married a year, it's not tough, but it's tough at times. So, hey, I want to thank everybody for listening. We had a special couple on today. It's not very often that I have two professional athletes on. I want to thank you guys for being vulnerable, for being transparent, and for having a fun time.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thanks. Yeah. Really appreciate it. It's been awesome.
Awesome. Hey, it's Craig Domann, the host of Pro Mindset Podcast. I want to thank you for listening or watching today's show. And you can catch us every week on the normal social media platforms like YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and all the listening podcast platforms. I hope you enjoyed today's show. And more importantly, I hope you gained a pro mindset insight. Please be sure to rate and review Pro Mindset Podcast. And I look forward to catching up with you on our next show.